The VacuFill coolant exchanger from UV Ultraviolet Systems is the fastest, most economical coolant exchanger on the market today. It operates solely on shop air, and it's designed to eliminate airlocks in cooling systems during refills. Let's review the piece of equipment itself. As you can see, it has three main tanks: a new coolant reservoir on the top, a used coolant holding tank in the middle, and a 12-gallon red storage tank at the bottom for old coolant. On the faceplate, we have easy-to-read instructions along with our vacuum gauge, three simply operated valves, and a sight glass on the side to show waste coolant levels in the center tank. The way the unit attaches to the vehicle's radiator neck opening or expansion tank is via the rad neck adapter. You'll notice the rad neck adapter has a fixed rubber stopper. This will fit a large majority of domestically produced vehicles in North America. The rad neck adapter also easily disconnects from the main line for ease of use. We've also included a range of 5 other adapters, making it possible for this piece of equipment to be used on any vehicle on the road today. When working with some imports that have a very small radiator opening, it may be necessary to use one of these 2 adapters. The smallest adapter necessary that looks very similar to a spark plug boot, or the universal cone adapter. To use these adapters, simply slide this one over the fixed rubber stopper on the rad neck assembly and insert into your radiator neck. To use the smallest one, simply fit it on the end, which is a press fit. Insert it into your radiator neck, and then perform your normal procedures. Also included with the VacuFill are 2 separate extraction tube assemblies. One is 18 inches long, the other is 4 feet. These are to be utilized when you're drawing coolant from the expansion tank or a side tank radiator. You can cut them to any length you want. We include 2 other hoses with the VacuFill as well. These are to be attached to the overflow tube coming off the rad neck assembly. Those are typically 2 different diameters. They easily attach to the end of the main hose by disconnecting the rad neck and attaching the tube. Number 1 and most important, the engine must be at operating temperature. Why? Simple physics. A 50-50 glycol water mixture's boiling point dramatically decreases, vacuum increases. This gives us a good coolant drop. We also must have the key in the on position with the engine off, and the heater must be in the on position. To attach the VacuFill system to the vehicle, simply check to see which adapter is necessary to fit the radiator neck or the expansion tank. This vehicle requires no adapters. We can simply use the fixed stopper on the rad neck assembly. Simply insert it into the rad neck and turn the brass knob until it's secure. There's no need to over-tighten it. As we increase vacuum, it will actually be drawn in tighter, thus giving us an airtight seal. Next, simply hook up the shop air. So now we're ready to start removing coolant. As I said, the engine's at operating temperature. To remove coolant, simply turn the valves on the control panel by following the instructions on the overlay to remove and remove. Then turn on the shop air. Here's a little technician's tip. At the very end of the extraction process, when you notice coolant not coming through the hose anymore, do this. Start the engine for about 15 seconds. Feather the gas. You'll notice a couple large gulps of coolant come out. What's happening is by the engine running, you're just jiggling the coolant in the very low-lying sections and removing that, thus improving removal efficiency. When I turned the air on, you heard a hissing noise. This is the start of the coolant extraction and the vacuum draw. You'll notice that the radiator hoses begin to collapse. This is normal, nothing to worry about. It's because of the vacuum we're creating in the system. On the sight glass on the side of the center tank, you'll also see the coolant we're removing beginning to fill that tank. At the same time, you'll notice the vacuum gauge on the faceplate beginning to rise. You're going to get a vacuum drop between 24 and 26 inches of mercury. Once we achieve that and coolant has stopped being removed from the system, simply turn valve number 2 to test, then turn the air off. We're now performing a vacuum leak test on the entire system. While observing the vacuum gauge on the faceplate, if you notice it beginning to drop, we have a leak in the system. We can't refill, we have further repairs to perform. If the needle remains steady, the integrity of the system is sound, and we're ready to refill. This unit gives you the option. If you wish to put the same coolant back in, we may do so, or we may refill with new coolant from the new coolant reservoir. If you perform just a simple repair on the system, such as a water pump or a radiator hose, and you wish to put the coolant you've removed back into the system, the procedure is very simple. Simply turn the air on and go to remove. This is recreating your vacuum draw. Once you achieve the vacuum desired, simply shut the air off. The vacuum you've created in the system is now drawing the coolant you've removed back in. During the refilling process, you'll notice the vacuum gauge starting to drop. When the gauge reaches 0, the system is full. You've eliminated any airlocks. You're ready to go. If we want to add new coolant to the vehicle, we must first drain the center tank into the waste coolant reservoir below. We do this simply by turning valve number 1 to drain to reservoir. You will hear the coolant draining from the center tank into the tank below for disposal later. We can now add our new coolant mix to the new coolant tank above. Simply remove the protective cap on the top. You'll notice we have a screen filter to prevent any debris from getting into the system. Always ensure that you put more coolant than required into the top tank. This will prevent any air from being drawn into the system or running out of coolant. If you do notice that you're running low on coolant during the refill process, simply turn valve number 2 to test, and you'll stop your coolant draw, trapping the vacuum remaining in the system there. You can then go add more coolant and continue to refill. To refill the system from the new coolant reservoir, we must first regain our vacuum in the system. Use this via the normal procedures. We then turn the air off, turn valve 2 to the fill position. Vacuum in the system will draw the coolant from the tank, fill the system, again, eliminating the airlock.